All right, here we go. It is 12:15, so we're going to get started. I'm going to practice versatility and not be expressive. And by doing that, I am just going to simply say that you need to spend whatever the next amount of time that this man, Tony Smith, is going to talk, is just stop multitasking and pay attention because very rarely do you get somebody that has a history of selling 100 plus transactions in Southern California, by the way, because I know sometimes we argue, oh, but they live in Michigan. Oh, he was in Southern California. Okay. Was also coaching, 60 plus agents at one point of some of the highest producers in the country. So he can give you knowledge from an agent standpoint, from a coach standpoint, and you're the vice president now.
I don't work in that capacity now. I'm actually just a coach and a trainer and a speaker for my,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and the other thing is he's a speaker. So I don't know what else to promote for you to listen at the highest intensity to this guy that's about to talk right now. So again, I'm practicing versatility. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let the man, the myth, the legend, Tony Smith, take it over from here. So, Tony, floor is yours, buddy.
Well, thank you for that. And anytime I get a chance to be here, I'm always really excited about it. First, because you can provide this service, which doesn't happen very often in the real estate world. And second, because you always have this incredible group of agents that show up, and I always look at the names and see incredible people. Many of you I know, and it's always good to be there. So, I hope you've adopted this and really gotten your head wrapped around the fact that this is your time. Like, I really hope that, like, if I ask you to write anything down today, I'd ask you to write down, this is my time, because this is your time. There's, you can get caught up in the rhetoric of what's going on, the hyperbole of what's going on, the craziness, and everybody's trying to jump on some platform and speak some message about skies falling and agents dying on the vine and all that stuff. But the reality is, this is your time. It really is. Okay. Here's an interesting thing. I did some research because I was really curious. I wanted to find out how many MLS systems there were in the US, because, with some of the things coming down with National Association of Realtors or whatever, every MLS has some little different variations of what they're doing and how they're approaching it, the whole thing. And I couldn't even get an answer. I looked on the MLS, said there were 535. And then I saw one that said there were 600 officially. And then I saw one there's as many as 800 MLS systems in the US. So the best I could tell you is there's between 500 and 1,000 different MLS systems operating in the US today. Okay. Which just gives you an example of how, when you plug in something into the internet, how true is it? You just don't know. So I'm here to tell you that a majority of what you're seeing on the internet that's being pumped around about what's happening with NAR is probably not true. And it very well may not be true for your MLS in your state or your city where you work in, right? There's some states that half of the state belongs to NAR and the other half doesn't. So the rules are different. Every brokerage has some of their take on it. Every state has their own rules that they're imposing. The question that you need to recognize, you need to figure it out for yourself when it comes to some of these things. I will give you some common thoughts that I recommend you do. And some of the answers you may not like, but I would recommend that you take a blank listing agreement for wherever you work and a blank buyer's broker agreement, and I'd fill one out in your own handwriting every day for a week. Every day, print out a blank listing agreement and a blank buyer's agreement and fill it out. Make up the buyer, pretend, fill it out. Okay. Sell your own home, right? And just by getting familiar with the paperwork helps a lot, right? If you're only taking a listing every once in a while and you go in front of your next client and the paperwork looks weird and it's awkward and you're not comfortable with it, man, does that make the presentation weird, right? And so there's only one way I know you can get past things is with repetition. So let's fill out a bunch of blank contracts, fill them out, practice every day, and you'll get very comfortable with it very fast. Okay. I made this note. How adverse are you to change? How adverse are you to change? And most people are more adverse to change than they would ever like to admit. And you think about these things, right? Here's what I know that are facts. Fact, okay? There's a fact. When the 9/11 happened and I paid attention to my coach, my business went up. fact. When the financial crisis happened and started in 2006 all the way down to 2011, my business went up. Fact. When COVID came, everybody's business went up. Everybody's business went up. So is it fairly safe to say that there's a fact when there's any kind of a traumatic thing going on in the world or some change that happens to our industry, if you pay attention and do your job, your business will go up? It's a fact for me, so I'm suggesting that it's a fact for you if you pay attention. Okay. Have you seen enough rhetoric online about all this stuff and watched enough videos that now you should say, I'm going to stop? Stop watching all the videos. Stop watching all the scripts and oh, you got to do this. The sky's going to fall. Agents are going to die on the vine. I would literally stop anything that said, here's the answer to NAR. Okay. I would stop because it may not even apply to your state, your MLS, your brokerage. It may not even apply to you. Okay. What I know is that we have 7 rules that we've taught in real estate in MFO world forever. And if you follow these 7 rules and engage in these 7 rules more than ever, your NAR will be a non-issue for you. Okay. Okay. Rule number 1 is you learn how to find people who want to buy and sell real estate every day. You learn how to find people. Now, if you can't ever solve the equation for yourself of how to find consistent, motivated, qualified sellers, if you can't ever crack that code for yourself, how is Tony Smith going to find consistently motivated, qualified sellers? If I can't ever crack that code, you have to start questioning, is that the root of all the problems going on in my business? Is that the root of it? Like, okay, so let's look at the words. Find. Do I have problems finding them? How about the word qualified? Do I have any challenges finding qualified? How about motivated? How about sellers? How about every day? Which one of those words is the biggest problem with that first statement? Finding them, finding qualified ones, finding motivated ones, every day, sellers, right? And if you can solve that problem for yourself, in our world anyway, here at Mike's office, you have very little to worry about when it comes to the NAR changes. Okay. But it's also just as equally easy to have your entire real estate career having that be some kind of an enormous challenge that you don't overcome. And it's easy for that to happen. And it's sad, but the reason why is because first, there aren't really standards on it in the industry. And second, there aren't the imposed skills to do it. And we can pretty easily just go down the bio road. So my advice to you is to fall deeply, deeply, deeply back in love or in love with the listing process. Okay. And it's pretty easy to do if you just look at it for a minute. We were talking about it in the class today because I have this little sales talk workshop going on. And it used to be you got into real estate, you got on this railroad track, and your railroad track came to a crossing in the road, and it split. And there was the easy road, and then there was the straight ahead road, which looks kind of hard. Well, you're going down the track, and the easy road is to work with buyers. And the straight ahead road is to work and become a listing agent. And that one looks harder. So most people start going down the track. And I actually believe that most people that get in real estate have a strong intention early on to be a strong listing agent. But then they run into the first roadblock, the first bump on the head, the first setback, the first whatever, and then they turn down the easy road, which is down the buyer agent side and working with buyers. Okay. But here's the beauty of it. Now, the one thing that I would say is the best part of NAR is now the track doesn't go straight and to the left, it goes left or right. And both roads are kind of hard. So now I don't have the option of just bumping into the hard road, which is listing property, and then going down the easy road, which is buyers. Now, if I don't figure out how to present my value and do all that, either road's a little harder. So you're just going to bump your head. And some people are going to run the train right off the tracks into the big abyss, which is unfortunate, but we all tend to clap when we say a bunch of agents are probably going to quit. Right? Miguel's clapping, goes, agents quitting? I love it, right? Okay. You've heard us say for years, you learn how to sell 3 more houses a year, you knock 1 agent out of the business. You learn how to sell 6 more houses a year, you knock 2 agents out. You learn how to sell 3 houses a month, you're knocking an agent a month out of the business, because agents are doing around 3 transactions each this year. So first, I'd ask you to fall back in love with becoming a listing agent. It starts with your decision to fall back in love with it. Okay. So we have rule number 1, which is find qualified and motivated, and I'm just going to say sellers every day. Rule number 2 is we have to learn how to finally follow up with those leads we generate at a level that causes us to succeed. So we need to dramatically improve our follow-up ability in terms of not only the skill of it, but the aggression and the consistency of lead follow-up, right? Okay, the third rule is to pre-qualify as a tool to secure the listing, right? And we need to really, more than ever, pre-qualify intently everybody we come across and be willing to do that. So can I fall back in love with prospecting for listings? Can I fall back in love with an aggressive lead follow-up process? Can I fall back in love with the act and the art of pre-qualifying my clients? Can I fall in love with all those things? Okay. And then 4 is to present daily. Can I fall back in love with understanding and developing and maturing and perfecting a listing presentation? Can I fall back in love with that? I'm convinced everybody here could fall back in love with every one of those things if you want to. Can I literally go, I am going to become obsessed with becoming the best listing presenter there is in my office, in my state, in my company? It's not hard to do. You just have to be interested in it. Okay. So then if I've done that, and then we go to the next one, is I need to learn how to handle all of the objections that I could possibly receive. So the next rule is I finally have to learn to handle all the objections I could possibly receive, right? Think about this concept. So think about objections, especially in the light of today. So, Mr. Seller, I understand when I pre-qualified you, you said you were going to move from here and you were going to buy a home in Nevada. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, so when you go to Nevada and you go to buy a home, how much are you going to spend for a home when you go to Nevada? Oh, you're going to spend about $600,000. Okay, so you're going to spend about $600,000 for a home there. And have you already determined what you're looking for and what you'd like to buy when you move to Nevada? Yes. Okay. And so when you go to Nevada, are you prepared to come out of your pocket cash with an additional $24,500 to pay the agent that shows you houses and get you into a contract there? Are you prepared to pay an additional $24,000 in cash to them? You're not? Okay, so you were thinking that you weren't going to pay the compensation for the agent that represents you to buy the house. Don't you think most buyers are going to feel just like you that are looking at your house? Don't you think most buyers are going to feel just like you that are coming over to your house? Do you think they want to come out of their pocket with extra cash to buy the home? See, objection handling is not hard. It's just common sense, right? It's just common sense. How about this approach? Mr. Seller, I did some research, and were you aware of how many, when we have all the buyer pool out there, were you aware of what percentage of the buyers actually have to get a loan to buy a house? Okay, you didn't. Well, it's actually just a little over 80% today, and that's actually increased. Last year, 78% of the buyers had to borrow money to buy a house. This year, it's a little over 80%. So the 80% of the buyers have to get a loan. And did you know that here in California, still, even with the prices the way they are, 26% of the buyers are actually first-time buyers scraping together the minimum amount of down payment so they can just finally get in the game? Did you know that? And so then you also have to appreciate, have you been watching and monitoring the interest rates lately? Have you noticed that interest rates have been on the rise? So 80% of the buyers today are scraping together the money to borrow to buy your home. and they're paying 6.5%, 7% interest rate today. So I have to ask you, how many of those buyers could then also pay their agent to come and work to help them find your house? In essence, can you afford to lose 75 to 80% of the potential buyers for your house? It's just common sense, isn't it? So objection handling. One of the rules is that we master the objections we're going to have to get. Okay. I would ask everyone here to take the 2 or 3. You guys have worked through them. I know Robert's got them. You guys have been working through. You've got dialogues, right? But I also believe that you could master those dialogues in the next 30 days when it comes to NAR. And you could master them. You could be the best person in the office. You could learn how to deliver it, chapter and verse, skill, right? And you could be there. I would spend probably 30 minutes to 1 hour every day for the next 45 days, understanding the contracts, understanding the little slight adjustments in my presentation, and understand overcoming the potential objection you might receive. Okay. The next thing I would ask you to do is start a little journal. And I'd ask you to start a journal. And this journal, I'm going to be very specific. These are real live scenarios that happened to me that had something to do with NAR. And I would ask you to write a journal and write it down. I ran into a seller. I started talking to the seller, and the seller said, I'm not paying any buyer commission because I understand I don't have to. And then I tried to handle the objection, and I was so successful. I would write that down. Why? Because the world has spent the last 60 days talking about what if, what might, what will, what could, what possibly, what's going to happen. And we've spent way too much time and energy talking about a whole bunch of stuff that's probably rarely going to happen to you. So I'd ask you to write a little journal of the truth. It better have happened to you, not what your friend said or what you heard or read. What it actually happened to me today. I was prospecting, and an expired on the phone says, I'm going to relist with an agent, and only if I don't have to pay buyer commissions. And I'd write that down just so you know if it's real or not. Okay. Mike said it the other day, he goes, let's move completely out of the what if and let's stand firmly in the what is. Let's just stand in the what is. Stop the what ifs. Okay. So I'd ask you guys to do that for sure. Right. I would ask you to create for yourself a 1-month plan called September to Remember. And I want you to have a little head start on this because we're not there yet. We still are in August here, right? But I would ask you to start getting your head wrapped around having September be the most spectacular month that you've spent in real estate this year. And let's get our head wrapped around it. Let's start designing it. Let's start creating. Let's get prepared for it. You know, when anyone ever asks me, how should I prepare for this? I would say you need to prepare in basically 4 or 5 areas. So we're saying September to remember. I would ask you to consider, I want September to be memorable for me. So the first area I want to really consider, if September is going to be September to remember, what are my production goals for September? Okay, I would just isolate the month and say listings, sales, buyer sales, listings sold, money paid. I want you to get just crystal clear with yourself, for yourself, what is September going to be for me in terms of production? And I would spell that out in detail. Okay. Second, I would ask you to spell out in detail what your prospecting or your listing generation month is going to be like. Am I working any Saturdays? Am I working any evenings? Am I going to increase my prospecting time during the day for the month? Am I going to get very clear on who I'm going to call, how many contacts I'm going to make? I would put a 1-paragraph description in detail of how I'm going to prospect in September. Okay. Like in detail. Third, I would outline September to remember of what am I specifically going to do with my skills. I'm going to write the listing presentation every day. I'm going to rehearse these 3 objection handlers on NAR that I know I want to use. I'm going to rehearse those until I know them inside and out. I'm gonna actually practice a little bit more. I've decided to add for sale by owners back into the mix. So I'm going to become the master at the for sale by owner script in September. Outline for yourself a skills improvement curriculum for the month that really gets you fired up. Okay. Or I would ask you to design a mindset routine that's probably the best you've ever done for a month. If I said September to remember slash mindset, what would I do in September to do the best work I've ever done on strengthening my mindset? Am I going to write in a journal every day? Am I going to do my gratitudes every single day for 30 days in September? Am I going to create a new series of affirmations and chant them every morning when I start? Here's an example. I asked everybody I coached to do this little assignment. I said, I want you to come up with the top 10 reasons why this NAR thing is going to be spectacular for you. Come up with 10 reasons why in writing. Well, there's going to be a bunch of agents that leave the business. Yes, I'm going to finally be able to capture some market share because of the fact that agents are not paying attention. So I'm going to gain a market share in the month of September. Yes, I'm going to finally commit to the skills that I've always wanted to learn and move to the listing agent side of the business. And I'm going to finally be a 70% listing agent, right? What are they? There's hundreds if you look. I would ask you to write down the 10 reasons why this is going to be spectacular. And I would ask you to start every day reading it with a lot of excitement. Okay. We got to wash out any negative self-talk you have about this. Okay. But that's all part of mindset for September. So now I've got my production goals are clear, an aggressive prospecting campaign that I've got set for myself, a really strong skills improvement curriculum for the month of September, right? I've got this really strong idea of the mindset, the books and the affirmations. Here's what I'm going to do on my mind in September. And then I'd probably ask you to add 1/5 element, which is how to reward yourself. What am I going to do in September when I've pulled off this month? Create some kind of a really exciting, memorable something. I'm taking the kids to Disneyland. We're going to go for a 3-day vacation. I'm going to buy some new clothes. I don't know. What's the reward going to be for you doing this September to remember? And then I would ask you to take all of that and somehow make it very visual for yourself. I don't know if you've got little charts you put up on the wall for the production goals, or you have some little checklist where you count down the contacts that you're going to make and just walk it down, some kind of visual. I don't know if you put Disneyland as a big picture up on September that you're going to Disneyland after it's over. I don't know. But I would have you make it visual so you can connect to it. If the world is going to be confused for the next couple of months, and I find a way to not be confused for the next couple of months, who wins? I win. If everybody else is running around chasing their tail and I put some blinders on and I win. Okay. And it could probably set the tone, if you do this properly, could set the tone for having probably one of the best finishes of a year you've ever had. Certainly could set the tone for money for the holidays. It could set the tone for getting your production up. It can change everything. Okay. So why wouldn't I take a real strong approach to changing everything? It's just something we need to consider. Okay. Right. In these times when things go like this, you have to recognize the mental and physical decline of realtors. The mental and physical decline of realtors is always faster than the change. Basically, agents give up or quit faster than any challenge. They always do. They always have. Okay. And so if we understand that and you add it all together, it's perfect. It's like literally the perfect time for you to do something special. Literally. So I wanted to work through this little thought with you right now at this time. Okay. The Mike Ferry organization and Mike Ferry has spent almost 50 years working out every imaginable detail for you on how to sell a lot of real estate. Like I arguably, I don't believe there's any other organization in the world that has put more time and effort and has come up with a better all-around solution for you how to sell a lot of real estate. The challenge is we can't spend that much time and energy with you as an individual figuring out what you want. Okay. So you think about it like this. You think about two sides. There's how to do it, and there's what I want. How do you sell a lot of homes? And then there's what do I want? Well, we have figured out the how for you. Like there is no doubt in my mind that we can have you sell a lot of real estate. We have that figured out. But what we can't spend the time is what you want. And what I know is that if you don't really get clear on what you want and the goals you have and what you're like trying to achieve, and you don't really get passionate and excited about those things, or if you don't believe them, if that's going on, all you're going to do is spend all your time fighting with us on the how to. So we will ask you to do things and you'll just fight with us. If you're not really excited and clear and strong belief of what you like to achieve, what do you want? Then everything we ask you to do becomes harder. I don't want to do that skills. I don't want to prospect like you're saying. I don't want to follow the schedule. I want to keep showing up at 9:30 in the morning, right? I don't want to change my behaviors. I don't want to do that. As soon as we get you to understand what you want, then changing your behaviors becomes so much easier on the how to. Okay. And I have a little soft spot for this because I don't know what to blame it on. I don't know why. I don't know what, but I will tell you this. I've watched the real estate agent community gradually and sometimes aggressively lose their passion since COVID. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's psychological. I don't know. I don't even pretend to know the answer to that. But what I've watched is I remember when I started getting involved and started to understand how to sell a lot of real estate, I remember thinking I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change my financial future for my family and my family's family's family. And I'm going to be able to live this life of my dreams and secure all these things that I want, the travel that I want, the wealth that I want, the passive income that I want, the recognition that I want. And I remember the agents at that time that we all used to be around and we get like, we're going to do all this stuff. We're going to change our destiny, right? And then today you watch agents, I don't know what it is, but you watch agents and go, well, if I start doing some deals, then maybe I'll get excited. Well, what I understand about it is everybody asks is what comes first, the chicken or the egg? The egg. The egg comes first. You have to get fired up about what you want to achieve, what you'd like to have in your life, how you want it to be different, right? You got to get there. And once you get there, then the how to, the chicken part comes along a lot faster. So it starts with a couple questions. How much time have you spent, or how much time are you spending daily, weekly, monthly, this year, really diving into what you'd like? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want your lifestyle to be? How different do you want it to be? Right? And it could be as simple as how much more money do you want to make? How much more recognition do you want? How much more security do you want? Do you believe that's all available to you? Okay. There's going to be $90 billion of commissions paid in the United States this year. Yes, we are only going to have 4 million sales, and it's declining a little bit. There's probably going to be 4 million sales, kind of like last year. We went from almost 7 million sales during COVID down to 4 million sales now. Oh, boo-hoo, right? The number of sales is down. But there's still going to be $90 billion of commissions paid in the US today. $90 billion. Okay, so I don't care how you slice that. There's more than enough from everybody on this call to change their life. And most of you, I know where most of you live with your guys' average commissions, you could change your life faster than we ever used to be able to change our life, because 10, 12, 15, 20, 25,000 changes your life faster than when I grew up with 4 and 5 and 6. Right? And so we just have to recognize that, is it possible that one of the challenges I have in doing more production is I haven't spent the time and energy getting passionate about what I want to achieve? I don't know. Okay. Doesn't really matter at this point how you are where you are. What matters is how passionate are you right now? How excited are you about the future? How thrilled are you about changing the future for you and your generations to come? That's what matters. And I maybe need to get there. So, what do you have to do to get there? How can you relight that fire to a point where you are showing up at the office at 7 o'clock in the morning again? You are excited about doing a prospecting session at 6 o'clock at night. You're not mad that you spend a Saturday twice a month to really dig in and grow your company, right? And you're really passionate and excited about it, right? If I'm going to climb up a ladder and I'm clear what the ladder is and I'm excited and I'm passionate, and I'm going to go rung after rung after rung up that ladder and I'm going to climb fast. And I know for a fact that agents are going to be running down the ladder the other way. If I climb and I'm going to watch them run down the other way and I get really excited about running up, going up the stairs is actually easier because you can step on their heads as you walk up the stairs. Okay. So there's going to be a pile of realtors, just climb over the top of them and change your life. It's basically what it is, right? And I'm more excited about the real estate industry right now at this moment, at this second, than I've been since pre-COVID for sure. For you guys. For you, because you can literally change your future financially right now. Okay. Best shot we've had in 20 years. Best shot we've had in 20 years to change how it works out for you. All right. But you have to want to do that. So I know that you guys have an advantage because this company, so if you're with Century 21, if you're with Masters here, this company spends a lot of time with you guys on your goals and dreams and really working to do those things. Right. But it's not quite enough. We got to turn it up personally. So it's some thoughts that I'm carrying around right now about what's going on in the market today and what's happening. Some thoughts that are on my mind. I couldn't help but read something the other day. I pulled out this list, and this, I was in coaching. This was probably, I don't know the dates on this. This was probably 15 years ago, and I was working with Mike directly at the time. And I remember Mike going, he said, "Hey, listen, do you want to make a real strong run at a 90-day production plan that'll change things for you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you prepared to do that? Are you prepared to take a 90-day run and change things for yourself?" I said, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "Okay, so I'm going to give you this list of things. Don't worry about writing these down. Just listen." He said, "Here's what I want you to do." He said, "I'm going to demand that you record every coaching call we have and you listen back to it every day for the next 90 days. I demand that you do that. Record the calls and listen back every day." He said, "I'm going to demand that after every coaching session you have, you send me an email and I better fill the commitment. That email better say, 'Hey, Mike, here's what I'm committed to doing this week based on our time together.' And I'm going to demand that you send me that email right after every coaching session we have." Okay, I can do that. Okay. "I'm going to demand that you spell out in detail how much prospecting, how many contacts, exactly who you're going to call, and it better look like it's your best 90-day prospecting session ever." Okay. He said, "I'm going to demand that we find out exactly what you're doing each day because I'm going to ask you to track every number exactly like it is for 90 days. I want proof. No, maybe I might have called 10 people. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I want you to track everything you do for these 90 days so we have proof of what happened." Okay. He said, "I'm going to ask you to finally and officially be willing to remove every distraction you have between 7 o'clock in the morning and noon. For the next 3 months, you're not allowed to have distractions between 7 a.m. and noon. You're not allowed. So tell me what they are and let's get rid of them, whatever they are." "Well, I got this, that, the other thing." Okay, get rid of them. Your phone goes in the glove box in the car. The internet is turned off. Your email system is turned off between 7 and noon. You're not taking calls from crazy people and you're not talking to family all day. You're not talking to your friends. Remove all this just for 3 months. Okay. He said, "I would ask you right now to send me a copy of your pre-listing packet." Now I would have one for a seller or a buyer. what's my pre-buyer packet and what's my pre-seller packet. And he said, send me a copy of that, and I would make enough copies that are going to last me for 90 days right now. If you're going to need 20 copies, have 20 copies made. If you're going to need 30, have 30 made. Okay. He said, I'm going to ask you to completely pre-qualify every client you have for the next 3 months. And I'm going to ask you to send me the pre-qual filled out, the answers. If you have a listing appointment, I want to have seen the pre-qual sheet filled out. So fill out a pre-qual sheet for every client you encounter for the next 3 months, and let's look at it. Okay. He said, I'm going to ask you to finally commit to our 5-step listing process. Finally. He said, I want to know that your very next listing presentation that you have, you did it exactly like I would ask you to do. Don't cut any corners. Okay. He said, I would ask you to send me the market stats every Monday so I know you're paying attention to the market stats. For 90 days, every Monday, send me the market stats so I know you're looking at the market stats. Okay. He got really specific on this list for me. He said, I want you to dial every phone number in your database and either leave a message or talk to them over the next 90 days. You have to dial every single phone number that's in your database, everyone, and you either leave a message if they don't answer or talk to them. And you have to do all of that over the next 90 days. Okay. And then he said, I'm going to ask you for the next 90 days that at noon every day, you send me a quick text or email at that time, what you're going to do in the afternoon that's productive. Every day that you work for 90 days, I better get an email from you that says, hey, Mike, this afternoon, I'm going to go door knock 3 FSBOs. This afternoon, I have a listing appointment. This afternoon, I'm going out to show a buyer the second time. This afternoon, I'm writing a contract for this offer. And he said, I need to know that you did something productive every afternoon for 90 days. And that list that I pulled up from however long ago it was, not figuratively, literally changed the way that I run my business forever. That 90-day window, because I really do feel like I did that, not 100%, but man, I did it as close to perfect as possible. And it went from a business that was doing like 30 deals a year, and that year we did just under 70, and the following year we went over 100. And I, to this day, believe it was because of that 90-day window. So think about 90 days from now. Let's just pretend that it's September. We got all of September. We got all of October. We got all of November. Can you imagine doing that for 90 days and how that might just change everything for you? This might be some advice. Martin, I see a hand up, but you're on mute.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach. This is amazing. You mentioned the first-time home buyers. What percentage was that? I got the 80%, but what was the first-time home buyers?
So I missed most of it. Did anybody else hear that?
26%.
26. Yeah. And these are just some numbers I pulled off the internet. 26% are first-time buyers scraping together just enough money to buy their first home.
Wonderful. And the second question is, how could we get a copy or send it to my coach Eddie Delgado in San Diego about that 90-day program from Mike Ferry to you?
A copy of it. I don't know if they have it. This was me being coached personally. So all I know is Robert recorded this, I think.
I'll send it. I'll send it to you.
And you might just listen back to that recording, Martin, over and over and write it out. It might take a little time. That was just off some notes from something that came out of my own personal coaching experience. Okay. Yeah, changed my life and career actually. So guys, I got to go back to a class. Thank you guys so much for the time we get to spend together. Anytime I can talk to this great group, I'm happy to do it.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, do me a favor, unmute yourselves and give this man a round of applause because he is super duper busy.
Thanks,
And he did
guys.
this as a
Thank you.
Have fun. Have fun.